He told her to leave the courtroom, called her out like she was nobody, but what he didn't realize was that she wasn't just anybody. She was there to investigate him, the kind of judge who sees what he wants to see and turns his head when the defendant is black. That's me, Amara Cole. Government sent, silent, sharp, and I never once needed a shout to get the room's attention. I just listened. That day, when I stood up, I wasn't just another face in the crowd. I was the reckoning no one saw coming. But you gotta wonder, right when pride blinds the powerful, will the system even hear the warning before it collapses under its own weight? What happens when the woman you humiliate walks back in, not as a witness, but as the one sent to judge you? Yeah, that'll get your heart racing. If you're curious how it all went down, you'd better settle in, because this one starts fast and never really lets up. They said court was open to the public, but let's be real, that didn't apply to me. 9:02 a.m., courtroom 3B, I walked in, not rushed, not hesitant, just moving with the kind of purpose that makes people look twice. Navy blue sweater, khaki pants, quiet shoes, and just a slim black notebook, no badge, no briefcase. Today, my name was Anna Davis. That's all anybody needed to know. Lawyers hunched over files. The hum of the HVAC battled with restless shuffling, and everyone looked tense, like the room was wound too tight. Then, all rise. Judge Ernest Wilcox entered, robe pressed, chin high, gaze sharp. You could feel how long he'd ruled this place, longer than some of these cops had been alive. First case, young black man, wrist still red from cuffs. Public defender looked barely 30, argued use of force. Wilcox just waved him off, saved the speech as counselor. Said the facts were clear, called the kid a runner. Nobody flinched. Not the jury, not the bailiff, not the boy's mom, except for me. I made a note. Wilcox noticed, got irritated. Squinted at me. You, in the blue sweater, were you here with? Media. Just observing, sir. Calm, low, like glass somehow that just made him bristle more. He told me if I wanted to be an activist, there was a park across the street. This was a court of law. I just closed my notebook, nodded, and walked out. No rush, no shame, but every eye followed meant it for what I said, but for what I didn't. And let me tell you, that silence, louder than any outburst. For the rest of the morning, Wilcox kept glancing at the spot where I'd been sitting. For a man so used to being in control, that was a first. But see, it wasn't the first time someone tried to shoo me out of a room I had every right to be in. But this time, I let them because the courtroom wasn't my goal. The system was. 2 blocks away, in a dusty office, I sat with a badge that nobody in court had seen. Inspector General, Federal Seal, tucked behind me. But I was here to watch, not to wear titles. That morning told me everything I needed to know. Wilcox's tone, the way he dismissed people, how he assumed my silence meant insignificance. But I wasn't angry anymore. That fire burned out years back now. I was pure purpose. I pulled out a folder. E.J. Turner, 14, deceased. Shot in a police chase for allegedly stealing a sandwich and juice. Unarmed. Body cam failed. No charges filed. Wrongful death suit? Dismissed by Judge Wilcox. Kids like each their names last longer as hashtags than in real life. That was why I took this case. 3 years ago, I'd exposed a DEA's ring of falsified evidence, overturned convictions, indicted officers. That one got me death threats. Car tires slashed, red X on my door. Never found out who did it. After that, I stopped wearing heels and announcing myself. Learned that power wasn't about shouting. It was about being the last one left standing. So I started reviewing every Wilcox ruling for the last 7 years, found a pattern. Maximum sentences for black defendants, evidence dismissed, officers cleared in record time. Personal, systematic, rotten to the core. But here's where it got interesting, because finding the corruption isn't the hardest part. It's finding someone willing to admit it. A message slid through a secure Lenino name. Just, meet me behind the records room. After hours. So I waited. The courthouse was a tomb at night. Echoing footsteps, portraits of judges staring down. Inside the records room, Lana Price, gray cardigan, eyes sharp. 17 years as a court clerk. I know why you're here, she whispered, handed me a USB drive. No speeches, no justifications. She just needed her job. I took it no promises, no judgment. Next, I called Martin Hayes, former prosecutor. We'd gone to school together, justice, him, comfort. You want me to go on record against Wilcox? He asked. I want the truth. The truth costs, he said. And I've got twins. A mortgage agent asked me to burn everything to prove a point. Couldn't blame him, but it still stung. I sat in that office, Lana's words in my head, thinking of all the people who saw, who knew but stayed silent because the cost of speaking up was too high. That's how the system wins, not with force, but with quiet fear. But here's the twist: fear is where the system breaks. I wasn't there to put one man on trial. I wanted to show everyone that the rot wasn't invincible. Truth, once spoken, dared others to speak too. So I walked back in. No more blue sweater, no hiding. Charcoal suit, gold badge. Amara Cole, Inspector General. The bailiff straightened. A clerk dropped her pen. Word traveled fast: she's back, name, badge, and all. Wilcox saw me, recognized me, and this time he knew. He tried to act normal, but you could see the crack was rattled. First case, landlord dispute, nothing special, but he kept sneaking glances at me. Mid-morning, he called for recess, stood too fast, nearly spilled his water. He knew he was being watched. That afternoon, a summons pulled him out of court. Down a back hallway to a bare meeting room, just me, a badge, and a folder of evidence. MS. Cole, he started. Judge Wilcox, I replied. He tried to look defiant, but I laid the folder on the table: transcripts, rulings, affidavits. You've been building this? He muttered. This, I told him, is accountability. He leaned back, arms crossed, tried to explain the pressure, the media, the backlog. You judge us in real time, he complained. You're right, I said. I don't know your pressure, but I know this: when you sit on that bench, your biases aren't just thoughts. They're consequences. Then I showed him the video. No sound needed. You could see it in his body language, the way he destroyed a teenager's testimony, not for facts, but for how he looked. This isn't a witch hunt, I said. I'm here because you forgot who that bench belongs to. It belongs to the people. All of them. When he left that room, he didn't slam the door. He wasn't angry, he was lost. He tried to call old friends, political allies. No one offer help. He wasn't being attacked. He was just left behind. For the first time, the ground under his bench felt shaky. The next morning faced a review. State's Oversight Committee, senior judges, Attorney General's rep, and me. No TV cameras, but plenty of eyes. I laid out the facts: every missed context, every neglected background, every assumption. I didn't dramatize. The facts spoke for themselves. Then I pushed a petition across the table: public defender, advocate, Office of Juvenile Justice, all signed. Just needed his. Wilcox stared, hands shaking, then signed. No speech, no defense, just ink and the weight of what it meant. Outside, the sky was gray, but the sidewalk felt lighter. No protests, just a handful of people: Jalen's old teacher, a neighbor, a mother with her daughter. A reporter asked what the moment meant. An old woman replied. She gave the rest of us a reason to believe again. Upstairs, I stood behind the window, shoulders finally relaxing. It didn't start with a press conference seat, started with a grainy phone video of me quietly standing up and walking out. It went viral. People didn't just watch. They saw dignity, not noise. Stories poured in, not from politicians, but people who'd been silenced in courtrooms, classrooms, waiting rooms. She didn't shout. She stood. One man wrote. That was louder than any protest. And quietly, something shifted. People started to look differently at the rooms they used to sit in. Not loudly, but clearly. Sometimes change doesn't start with a roar, but with one person who stands and keeps standing. Wilcox read no drama, no statement, just a one-page notice. People didn't celebrate. They just breathed easier. I stood in the hallway, looked at his portrait among the judge, didn't need to touch it. The clerk came up, said, Miss Cole, it's done. I nodded, finally letting myself feel the stillness. Power isn't loud, I said. Real power listens. And with that, I walked away, down the quiet hallway, leaving behind the weight of something that had finally shifted. Outside, sunlight caught in the dust, courthouse steps empty. I paused, saw a little girl with her mom. The girl looked up and asked, "Mom, is she the judge now?" Her mom smiled, "No, baby. She's the one who makes the judges think twice." I heard it almost stopped walking, not because of the compliment, but the truth in it. I kept moving past the people through the light. No applause, just silence that felt like truth settling in. Because sometimes justice doesn't come with noisy, it comes with grace. Sometimes the loudest voice is the one that never had a shout. If this story made you think even a little hit-like, share it with someone who still believes in doing what's right, and tell us below, where's the line between justice and just following the rules? When does silence protect, and when does it destroy? Your voice, your comment, your share, maybe that's how the next room starts to shift.